Hey, what's happening, guys? Rules for Rebels here, and today I'm going to be telling you guys about my first business I ever started. I shouldn't say first business I ever started. One of the first businesses I ever started that actually made some decent money and sort of grew into something bigger. I had started other little businesses before that. I had a landscaping business before that. This particular business is selling, beanbag toss or cornhole games. Like the ones you see at college campuses and tailgating at sporting events and barbecues and things like that. Now, this is a few years back. Now you can go into, Dick's Sporting Goods or Sports Authority or wherever, Walgreens even, and buy like cheap plastic or balsa wood games. But back at the time I started making them, you couldn't really find them at stores. It wasn't really that mainstream. Like the way you bought them is you saw them in somebody's front yard and, you either called the number or went and knocked on their door and said, hey, I want to buy a set of these. So there was very, very little competition. And typically, as soon as somebody bought one from you, shortly after, 2 to 3 of their friends would buy them because nobody really knew where to get them at. So it all started, I was actually in college at the time. I was taking an entrepreneurship class, which a little bit off topic, but I really wish traditional education would focus more on like entrepreneurship and doing your own thing. But fortunately, the college I went to, it wasn't a huge focus, but they did offer 1 or 2 entrepreneurship classes. And I happened to take one. The teacher was fantastic. It was basically the way the class was broken down. I think 2 or 3 days a week it was kind of classroom, and we would cover classroom type stuff. And then every Friday, the teacher would have some of his past students who are currently entrepreneurs come in and talk about their business, how they get started, etc. And one off the top of my head that I remember is there's a company called Skydive Chicago, which is probably one of the biggest skydiving companies in Chicago. There's really no skydiving companies in Chicago, but it's in Huntley, Illinois, but probably one of the closest ones to Chicago. Really, really successful. And 2 of his students started that company, so they came in and talked to us. Anyhow, I took another entrepreneurship class with this guy, and the entire class was the teacher gives you $100, and you have to start a business, and at the end of it, you have to pay him back the $100. And it was a fairly small class, 25 kids in there. Excuse me. Some of us partnered up with other people, some of us did it on our own. I actually wound up deciding to do it on my own, and at the time, my cousin, who was a contractor, was using like the scrap wood from jobs to build cornhole games, and he was making a good buck selling them. I think my dad had bought one off of him, and so we had one sitting around the house. So I said, you know what? This is going to be my business. There's not a whole lot of, you have to find something that you can start with under $100, which actually I really got to give that teacher props. Here, years later, I talk about the $100 startup and how you don't need business plans, and really the best thing to do is just get rolling and just get started. And I had a teacher who was basically implementing the $100 startup idea, I think before the book was even written. I'd have to check on when the book was written. But anyhow, I knew I could either go get like scrap wood from construction sites, or worst case scenario, I just had to buy, a piece of, 3/4 inch quality plywood or whatever. So I knew I could build a game for under $100. I knew I could sell it and get my money back. So that's basically what I decided to do. I am not a woodworker. I'm not handy. I don't have a lot of power tools. And I think this is a good example of just getting started. I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't say, oh, I need a mentor. I didn't say, oh, I better call my cousin and have him hold my hand and show me how to make that. I said, look, here's a game. I'm going to basically take some pieces of paper and put them up against a game and like trim out. Most people would probably start with plans, but I just needed to get started. So I took a piece of paper and kind of trimmed out templates for the sides and the top of the board. Cut out my pieces. You get a special drill bit with like one of those circular saws around it. Cut the 6-inch hole out of the middle of the board. Gorilla glued the sides to the top to hold it in place. Then put screws in. Then put sinkers in so that the screws were below the levels they weren't going to scrape the bags. I think at first I started buying sets of bags off somebody on Craigslist to sell with my games. But bags are kind of expensive. Buying a set of bags alone cost me more than it cost to make a board. I think at the time I could make a board for like under $20, probably between $14 and $18, depending on the quality of wood that I used. So my mom had an old sewing machine in the basement. I went to Joann Fabrics, bought a couple yards of duck cloth, which is like a thick canvas type material, and I just, I'm going to make a game, or I'm going to learn to sew and sew these games. So I taught myself how to sew. Went to Farm and Fleet, bought some animal feed because that's what goes inside of the cornhole bags is like animal feed corn. Bought some of that and started sewing up bags, filling the bags, sewing the corners up, and now I could sell an entire set of boards and bags together. I wasn't reliant on somebody to go buy bags from them, and it actually wound up being really successful. I mean, I was going to college and working a part-time job at the time, not making very much money, and when I would make these cornhole games, I think, like I said, probably cost me $15 to $18 in materials to make. I would sell them for, I would say, minimum $75, sometimes up to $300 if I was doing special designs and things like that. But typically, I would say $100 to $150. Now, that may seem kind of expensive now, seeing as how you can go to Dick's Sporting Goods and buy a set for like $30. But again, mine were like high quality sets of boards that are going to last you a lifetime. I'd paint them. I'd put a coat of varnish on them and seal them and everything. Like, they were really nice cornhole sets. Continued selling them. I would sell at least a few a week, making a couple $100 a week cash money. I think I made a custom board set for my sister. She went to University of Dayton in Dayton, Ohio. Made one with like the Dayton Flyers logo on it. A bunch of her classmates or roommates, whatever, wanted games, so I made some for them. I contacted a couple bars, and again, the little lesson here: don't be afraid to reach out to people and try to sell to them. Like, I think a lot of people be like, oh, how do they sell? How do they? I went out to a bunch of bar owners and even restaurant owners who normally have a wait time, and I would make them a game set with their restaurant's logo on it. Sometimes I would even do custom bags for them as well, and I would sell them a set, right? So then people would ask the bar owner, oh, where'd you get these made? Because back then it was still hard to find them. And he would pass along my info, and that brought me even more sales. So sometimes I would do these for free just for the publicity. Other times they would just refer people to me and I would sell them. I think I donated some to the local PTA, or the high school was having some kind of like lock-in sleepover giveaway thing. I donated a set there, and obviously I got the publicity. We used to call our company Tailgate Games. So it started out small like that. There's a bar out in the suburbs of Chicago that has like an indoor volleyball court. They have like life-size Jenko games and just like a lot of cool stuff like that. So I approached them and said, hey, would you guys want to buy some of these games? Not only did they buy some, but they actually said, hey, we were looking at running like a tournament. Would you be interested in like hosting the tournament? So at this point, I enlisted a friend of mine who is very kind of entrepreneurial and business savvy, and we kind of turned it almost from a game building company into like a production company type thing, or an event company, I guess you could say. And Friday nights we would hold cornhole tournaments at this bar. The vendors and beer companies and things like that who the bar works with would donate prizes. So Bud Light may say, okay, we'll give you an inflatable canoe to give away to the winners. Someone else may give away $500, whatever. So we had all these free prizes to run cornhole tournaments. We could charge, whatever entrance fee into the tournaments we wanted, and we got a cut of that. The bars liked it because it brought in customers, and also they got some of the revenue from the tournament. We liked it because A, it helped us sell games, and B, we were also making money off, kind of the event side of this business. And we actually took it even further. Like, we started, I don't know if we ever got the calendar put together, but we were going to get calendars made, and we were going to have fun bags girls, pardon the pun or whatever you want to call it. But basically, we're going to have hot, busty girls host the cornhole tournaments, and we had some girls hosting them, but then we wanted to like get a calendar, basically just do marketing stuff. I think it was half marketing, half finding any reason to do like a photo shoot with hot girls and act like we were big shots or whatever else. And that's kind of a totally separate funny story. We were putting up ads on Craigslist looking for models and things like that, and we got a few inquiries and stuff like that, but you're not going to get a ton. So then me and my buddy started getting kind of stupid. This isn't really like ethical or whatever, but we started putting up kind of crazy Craigslist posts like, shoot for R. Kelly video this Friday. And of course, every girl wants, this is years ago, but every girl wanted to be in an R. Kelly video. So we'd be getting flooded with phone calls and things like that. And we'd be, the R. Kelly video shoot filled up. But we do have this cornhole fun bag girl shoot that we're doing if you're interested in doing that. So not exactly the most ethical thing to do, but whatever. We're young and stupid. But But yeah, I mean, we actually wound up getting that set up. I was actually going to make a video on this topic as well, as far as how to get free photographers and how to get free models for your projects and things like that. And I'll make a separate video, but there's something called TFP. It stands for time for prints. And basically, photographers need models, basically to shoot. Models need photographers so that they can get pictures to put in a portfolio. Normally, photographers have to pay models. Normally, models have to pay photographers. So basically, we acted as kind of a middleman or a broker. We found a location to shoot. We contacted some photographers and say, hey, we have some models. If you're interested in shooting for free, we'll have mall signed model releases and you can use them in your portfolio. And on the flip side, we told the girls, we have a photographer. If you're willing to sign a model release and let us use the photos for commercial uses, we'll get you a free set of prints put together. So basically, by kind of acting as a middleman on that deal, we didn't have to pay models or photographers. That's basically how that whole thing works in a nutshell. But I'll make a whole nother video talking about like the whole time for prints things. There's a lot of money a lot of ways to make money in kind of the photography and modeling niche, and that's something that I did for a number of years as well, but topic for a totally different conversation. Eventually this business wound up kind of transforming into a drop shipping business, and this is before, I'm sure people have been drop shipping since the beginning of time, but it wasn't really called drop shipping. But essentially I started doing drop shipping, which is kind of funny because now I kind of talk shit about drop shipping, but I started drop shipping basically before drop shipping was even like a thing. But basically I was selling these cornhole games, and I started thinking like, okay, like people who buy my games are having barbecues, they're tailgating at sporting events. What types of other products could I sell that would appeal to these people? So I would sell sets of replacement bags and things like that. But I also found a couple companies who sold like tailgate related products. One particular one was basically a grill that would snap into like a receiver hitch. If you got a tow hitch on the back of your truck or whatever, this grill would snap into there, it would swing out, and basically you got a grill on the back of your car from when you're going to watch a Bears game or whatever else. So I found a company that sold those for, I don't know what it was, $80 or something. I marked them up to like $160, and I put those on my website along with the cornhole games. And I never sold a ton of them, but it was a nice little add-on. I sold a few of them. It was an easy, I don't know, after fees and everything, maybe an easy $50. So basically, just by offering this other product and placing an order, essentially drop shipping, I was able to squeeze another $50. Maybe somebody buys a cornhole game from me, I make $80 off that, and then they tack on like a grill that snaps onto the back of their car. I had a few other products that I drop shipped as well, but it's just being creative, finding additional ways to make money. Nobody was out there making videos about how to do drop shipping, but it just kind of occurred to me like, I'm selling a lot of cornhole games. People like these. What else would these people buy? It was just like common sense to do that. Another thing I started doing when kind of the sales of games slowed down is I would do a lot of bartering. So Craigslist has a bartering section, and I tended to trade for a lot of sports tickets and concert tickets. Now, let's think about this. So a lot of guys who are in sales or business or whatever, they get free sporting event tickets through their company, right? So it costs them nothing. There's a lot of value in those tickets, but to them it's like, I don't want to go to the game tonight. The tickets probably go to waste. Now, to me, my cornhole games cost me like $16 in materials and a little bit of time, but there wasn't a lot of value there for me. So I would barter. I would say, okay, I'll trade you a game for 4 Cubs tickets, 4 Sox tickets, whatever. I think on one occasion I traded for Bon Jovi tickets. But it was really easy because for these guys it was a no-brainer. They're essentially getting a cornhole game for free that would have cost them anywhere from $75 to $150. All they're having to give up is 4 Cubs tickets for a game they're not even going to go to. So it was a nice even trade. Now, I could either resell these tickets a lot easier than I could resell a cornhole game and make money off the ticket sales. Or if I wanted to go to the event, I could actually go to the event. But essentially, I'm trading like $100, $150, $200 worth of tickets for $15 worth of wood and 20 minutes of my time to make the game, because you could actually make them pretty quick once you got like a little assembly line going. But yeah, I mean, that was basically one of the first businesses that I started. I never registered an LLC. I never incorporated. It was mainly kind of a cash hustle. Eventually, at some point, I think I was using PayPal when I was selling the stuff online. Kind of another clever tactic I used. The local newspaper would let you place ads for free in the classified section if your item was $25 or less. So what I would wind up doing is I would sell replacement sets of cornhole bags for $25. Now, not only did I get a free ad, and some people would buy the bag sets from me, which probably cost me, I don't know, a couple dollars in material, so it was a nice profit there. But if you're selling bags in the cornhole thing, probably half, if not more than half of my calls, hey, I saw your ad in the Sun for cornhole bags. You don't happen to sell the boards as well, do you? Well, absolutely. I got a set for $75, and I'll throw in a set of bags with it too. Okay, so free advertising just by being kind of clever and taking advantage of the $25 less free ads. So I share this example just because, like, this was one of my first hustles. I noticed I kind of enjoy hearing people's, like, stories of how they got started or methods they've used and things like that. And I've been getting a lot of, like, requests from you guys about, like, similar types of videos. So I thought I'd share this. Figured you guys would maybe find it interesting. Thought maybe it would kind of illustrate different ways to kind of be creative and clever in starting a business when you don't have a lot of money. Again, getting back to the very beginning of this story, this business was started with I should say much less than $100, but this business was essentially started with $100, and it was bringing in a couple $100 a week, and eventually grew into something larger. Why it actually wound up stopping is basically one day I walked into a Walgreens store, and I saw Walgreens, which, you know, isn't even a hardware store, isn't even a sporting goods store, was selling like a cheap, it was either plastic or balsa wood cornhole game for, I don't know, like $17.99 or something like that. And while my games were much better quality, you know, the masses of people are going to opt for the $20 or $30 game that, you know, because they know somebody's going to step on it at a barbecue drunk and break it. So most people are going to opt for the cheap game as opposed to shelling out the bigger money for my games. So sales started slowing down. And once you know, if I was making a lot of games, I would basically cut out all the pieces, glue everything. It was like an assembly line, and it didn't take a lot of time per game. Once it started getting to the point where people were like, yeah, I want, you know, I was selling a couple games a week, it wasn't really worth my time, like messing up the garage and getting all the tools out to build just one or two off games. So that's kind of why I wound up getting out of it. And once I wasn't selling them anymore, it didn't really make sense to do like all the cornhole tournaments and things like that. And I think cornhole was kind of it's still popular, it's still fun, but it was like a really, really hot fad for a while, and that kind of died out. So that's kind of why the business wound up coming to an end. But it definitely gave me a little bit of, you know, even after that, it was a number of years before I ever got into affiliate marketing and struck upon, you know, my next successes or whatever. But that was kind of one of my early entrepreneurial ventures that actually, you know, it didn't make me rich, didn't make a ton of money. It was more of a hustle than a business. But it was one of the things I did that actually wound up working out and making me some money and kind of built up my confidence as a business person, as an entrepreneur, etc. So, I don't know, hopefully you guys enjoyed the story. If so, please give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, smash that subscribe button below. If you guys have ever been in this business, if you've had some kind of other like business where you like built something with your hands that wound up being successful, you want to share the story, drop it in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next video. Have a good weekend, everyone.